This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We are hearing that Manitoba nurses are leaving the healthcare field. They say they are burned out and unable to maintain any work-life balance. They say it's due to high vacancy rates and mandated overtime hours, which the nurses' union says is a skyrocketing problem. It's forced some nurses to leave their jobs, and others aren't far behind. CBC's Brittany Greenslade reports.
They're there to help on some of your worst days. But these days, Manitoba nurses say there's no one helping them on theirs.
Well, I was often just angry when I was at work because I just felt sort of at my wit's end.
According to the Manitoba Nurses Union, nurses logged more than 1 million hours of overtime across the province last year, with many, like Melissa Weens, often being mandated to stay well past their shifts.
I would stay and work a double shift, so work for 16 hours. And it happened like 8-9 weeks in a row. And that's what finally pushed me to say, okay, I can't do it anymore.
Her part-time hours had gone out the door, and she was no longer able to balance her patients and being home to raise her children. After 10 years in the field, the mother of 2 quit.
So I had to finally choose, do I want to be an exhausted and angry mom working as a nurse, or do I just want to be like a good mom to my kids? So that's what I finally chose.
And others say they're considering doing the same. One rural emergency room nurse, whose identity CBC is keeping confidential, say vacancy rates remain sky high.
On any given day, when the shifts get posted to be picked up, there's anywhere from 3 to 8 shifts during the day that are empty that need to be filled.
Numbers from health authorities show in January, rural hospital vacancy rates for nurses were as high as 35% in some regions, and at one point last year in some areas, nearly half of nursing positions were vacant.
You can't give it 110% all the time. You do your best and you make sure that the bare minimum really gets done to make sure the patient is safe.
But she says more often that's becoming impossible.
We want to help our unit. We want to pick up those extra shifts. We don't want to leave them short-staffed, but we're all getting burnt out. And, like I said, the patients are seeing the effects of it. Our kids are seeing the effects of it.
Shared Health and the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority say a provincial nurse float pool is being implemented that will allow for flexible scheduling. However, it's still in its early stages, and at least one health region says it has yet to result in any hirings. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Last night, as you know, Manitoba was hit by extreme weather conditions, strong winds, blowing snow, and some closed highways. If you were watching the program last evening, you heard our weather specialist Fiona Odlum and I talking about that at length. But some Manitobans are wondering why Environment Canada didn't step up to do more. The CBC's Stephanie Cram brings us the story.
As you know, when it is really windy out there, Camp Morgan is literally blowing apart with the crazy wind that is happening out there.
That was a scene last night at Winnipeg's Brady landfill. Camp Morgan has been there since December in honor of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
The winds out there are crazy right now. Even the sacred fire keeps trying to blow out.
Those fast winds were spotted all over the province, blowing at a time when the highways were busy.
By the time we got to Bronx Hill, it was like zero visibility, and traffic was crawling along maybe 20 kilometers an hour at some points. And I just thought we're just going to pull into this parking lot. There were quite a few other vehicles there already.
Amanda Friesen and her son were driving into Winnipeg from Morden to see the Jets game. They were among 40 people who stayed overnight at the Brunkild Community Centre, but they still managed to catch the game.
Me and my son were listening to the Jets game on my phone just over a radio app, and we were wearing jerseys, so it was pretty obvious what our intentions were for the evening.
Despite drivers being stranded and highways closed, there was no weather warning.
The apps I usually check, there's usually, warnings or advisories or something like that. And there wasn't anything that kind of gave me the warning to like, oh, maybe this is, going to get worse before it gets better.
According to Environment Canada, last night's storm didn't meet the criteria of a blowing snow warning.
Blowing snow advisory is an event that lasts at least 3 hours, where winds are stronger than 30 kilometers an hour and visibility is reduced to 800 meters or less.
Hazel says Environment Canada can't always capture rapidly changing conditions because many parts of the province don't have observation centers. She says they rely on the public.
So if you see something that's happening and it's bad or it's definitely impactful, well, if you are on Twitter, use it and tweet that information. And there's a really good chance one of our forecasters will see that information.
Hazel says last night's storm is a reminder to keep an emergency kit in your car. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, last year we told you about a program that aimed to create a new kind of security guard for libraries in Winnipeg, calling these guards community safety hosts. The program trained people to do more than just guard. They were also there to help people in crisis. The first cohort graduated from the program a year ago. CBC's Cameron McLean caught up with some of them to find out how the program has grown and what they've learned along the way.
It's been good. I've just been working at the Access Center and the library. Pretty excited for the community connection space to be open again.
Landa Rispler has worked as a community safety host for a year. She was part of the first group that graduated from the training program last year. Now she's part of a growing number of safety hosts helping to change the face of security in places like here in the St. John's Library.
I think it makes people feel a little bit safer than security guards because they know that we're not just like there with authority. I care, I want people to be doing well. Like if they're struggling, then I want to help them not struggle anymore.
The program started as a pilot with 3 people patrolling the St. John's and St. Boniface libraries. It grew out of the reaction to security measures that were introduced at the Millennium Library in 2019, which some people said were too strict. Safety hosts receive weeks of training in de-escalation and trauma-informed care. Now they've expanded into places like the Millennium Library and the Downtown Access Clinic. It's also grown to employ 21 people.
Probably we got to that number a lot sooner than we had really planned as well, with recent events in the city and a lot of demand from community to see safety hosts in more spaces.
A deadly stabbing at the Millennium Library in December led the city to bring in metal detectors and bag checks at the entrance. The city also increased the number of community safety hosts inside the building. The program employs people with the same life experiences as many of the people that they help. That's why they have mentors like KB Greenhill, who support the safety hosts while they're on the job.
At the moment, because of all the growth that we've been experiencing, yes, it's been a lot. It just expresses the need for this kind of work, to know that someone's out there working, round the clock.
That support helps people like Rispler create connections with the people she interacts with.
When I have a rapport with someone, it makes me feel really good. Yeah, I have a few people that actually come just to say hi because they like my vibes, I guess.
2 groups of safety hosts have gone through the training, and there are plans for a third. More people bringing a human touch to security. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, despite the wind and blowing snow we saw last evening, hundreds of people marched through Winnipeg's West End to remember missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. The annual Women's Memorial March takes place every Valentine's Day. Similar events happen across North America. People in Winnipeg carried butterfly wings marked with the names of people who are missing or have been murdered. About 200 people took part locally, including some whose loved ones are no longer with them.
I think about her children that I'm raising right now, that's right behind me. And I'm on her children, and she shouldn't have been taken away not like that.
Charlene Williams' daughter Jana was found 2 years ago in a suitcase near the Red River. Still, no arrests have been made in the case. Organizers say Winnipeg has the highest rate of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and gender-diverse people in Canada. There's not enough data when it comes to Black communities and cancer. That's what researchers in Ottawa have found in a new report. The report uncovered huge gaps in cancer care across the country. The authors and local researchers say the outcomes are surprising, and they point to a larger problem. CBC's community reporter Chidi Akuma explains.
In Canada, cancer research has come a long way. But for Black communities, a new study says this knowledge is missing.
For years and years and decades, we don't know what's happening in Canada for specific groups, right? When you have data, you have to look at the differences.
The Interdisciplinary Centre for Black Health analyzed various Canadian cancer studies. They found there was no data on how common cancers affected Black people. The authors say this is because of a colorblind approach, a method that doesn't consider race.
When your skin color can be part of the problem and people choose to ignore your skin color, it is inherently racist.
In April, Winnipeg hospitals will start collecting race-based stats, a first in Canada. Dr. Marsha Anderson will lead the program. She believes that the colorblind approach maintains inequality in healthcare.
Color blindness in healthcare data sets or in health research in Canada is a choice. It's a choice that has been made and often continues to get made. And I think in some ways, it feeds into a myth that we don't have the same impacts of racism in Canada that our neighbors to the south experience.
Cancer Care doesn't collect racialized data, but their breast screening program, Breast Check, plans to start. The researchers in Ottawa also found that when compared to others, Black communities were less likely to be screened for cancer. Sociologist Delia Douglas says some people stay away from what they fear.
Fear will be one reason to not have the conversation, but also the history of anti-Black racism in healthcare, and as one institution, is also contributing to not pursuing questions around your health and well-being, because it's not an institution where you feel that you are seen as a human being and treated with the care and consideration that you deserve.
All the researchers we talked to said there are still gaps that need to be filled. But to them, acknowledging there's a problem is the first step towards better care for all. Chidi Akuma, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police are looking for a man wanted in connection to a fatal crash that happened in the city. The crash actually happened last May. Officers attempted to stop a sport utility vehicle, and that vehicle sped away. The SUV later crashed into a tree. A 22-year-old passenger was taken to hospital, but she died of her injuries. Police have now issued an arrest warrant for the man you see on your screen, 28-year-old Christian Grant Pachinos, and they say they have not been able to find him. Winnipeg police have arrested an 18-year-old man from Kenora. This is in connection with a machete attack that left a man with life-altering injuries. Last Thursday, the victim and the suspect got off the same bus at Mount Royal and Ness Avenue in Winnipeg. Police say the suspect then slashed the other man with the machete in an attack that was random and unprovoked. Officers arrested the suspect yesterday in the West Alexander area. He faces numerous charges. Local fiddle teacher Gasaya Gahunga is excited for his class. For the first time, grades 7 and 8, Seven Oaks Middle School will play at Festival du Voyageur. They are part of the Incredibos program. That program's been happening at the school now for more than 10 years. It gives students the opportunity to showcase their skills at concerts locally. CBC's Jim Agapito had a chance to join for their last practice before the Festival du Voyageur shows.
We're here at when your last practice is for what?
So the kids are getting ready for the Festival du Voyageur. It's a big gig for them. They're playing on Monday, 4 o'clock in the La Tente des Neiges. So it's the first time playing at Festival. They're really excited, and so, you know, we're just trying to get them ready for it. I want it to be everything it can be for them.
I assume that you guys have played in front of people before, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, what's that like? I'll ask both of you.
I mean, again, it's really nerve-wracking, but like, as soon as you start playing, it's like you kind of forget about the people because you're like so well immersed in the music.
You do feel nervous. Of course you're going to feel nervous, but it kind of goes away when you see all of the people and you see how like they're thinking how cool is this that we're doing this.
So playing the fiddle is really about relationships and playing music together and having fun together. So I hope when they go up on stage that people see them having fun, having friendships, like all the smiles and laughs that will go along with it. It's dancing music, it's party music, so that's what I want it. I want that to be happening on stage.
We get to play at a festival and we're kids, so like we should see what we can do.
Our weather specialist Fiona Odlum joins us now. Festival de Voyageurs kicking off on Friday, so a lot of people will be on site now trying to set things up.
And I bet they're really happy the wind isn't as bad as yesterday. It was around this time yesterday that things started to really whip up and get kind of ugly down here in Winnipeg. Let's take a look at some of the numbers that were recorded yesterday in terms of those really strong winds. Portage La Prairie, I know I wrote Portage, I couldn't get it all on there. Portage La Prairie, gusting to 77. I think that was around 7 o'clock last night that you were gusting into the almost 80 kilometers an hour. Altona got to 73, Emerson almost to 70, Morden into 64, and we only got to 60, but it was that little bit of snow yesterday that really just made everything just so treacherous. Minus 16 right now. That wind that we were dealing with, that was bringing in the cold air. Minus 16 right now, wind chill minus 23. We're going to see a big change in our wind chill values. Tonight, we're going to be getting down to around minus 36 with the wind chill. It's going to be very cold, risk of frostbite. Now, in and around Winnipeg right now, your commute should be pretty easy, clear, and the wind has really died down. That took until about lunchtime. But look at all this cold air coming in and then bouncing back up. We're going to see warm air coming through, and then we're going to start seeing a little bit of cold air returning towards us as we look at the start of next week. So lots of warm air coming towards us. Here's how it's going to look over the weekend. A lot of that cold air into the north, but then it does start to plummet down towards the rest of the province. We do have a little bit of snow coming towards us. It's all from this storm up here, and it will be affecting Winnipeg. We'll see it spreading through Friday. Now, Friday, we do have more wind coming. So Friday morning, first thing, you're going to see that the wind gusts are going to get really strong into the Winnipeg area. First of all, I think I'm hiding the gusts in Dauphin up to 60 Friday midnight. As we get going during the day, we're going to see those gusts into the 50s and 60s right through Winnipeg and the surrounding area. So Friday, breezy. Minus 20 tonight at midnight under a partly cloudy sky. Nice light wind. Wind chill, minus 36 degrees. We're going to see minus 28 first thing in the morning. That's cold. Add in the wind chill, minus 36 as well. By lunchtime, lots of sunshine, minus 18 degrees. Our forecast for the next couple of days for the kickoff of Festival on Friday, we're looking for -1. And again, I can't reiterate this enough, very breezy. So we're going to see that wind into the 50s first thing Friday morning. But this is where we're going to see that big temperature change, -1 for Friday. Saturday, we could see a little bit of snow starting Saturday night into Sunday. So we're looking for about 1 centimeter. Still definitely warm, but you can see as we look towards Sunday, Janet, that's when the cold air starts to return.
And the precipitation is coming down as well.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for watching that for us, and we'll check in with you a little later in the show.
Sounds great.
A minor hockey team in Stonewall needs your help. The Under-11 Blues are trying to win $100,000 for charity by doing more good deeds than any other minor hockey team in Canada. But the competition in this contest is tough. Today's leaderboard for the Chevrolet Good Deeds Cup shows Stonewall tied for 3rd. I talked to the team's head coach this afternoon to find out how you can help. Byron Scrivens, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What inspired you and your team to join this challenge?
A group of parents from last year's U11 team took part in the Good Deeds Cup, and they said it was a really good experience for the boys. So they brought it forward, and we thought it would be a good idea as a coaching group and parent group, and we just decided to kind of jump in with both feet and go full bore.
So how have your teammates, your team members responded?
They've been amazing. Not only the kids themselves, but the parents as well have been super supportive, and with donations and all sorts of stuff that's been going on, and it's kind of overwhelming to see, to be honest with you.
It's kind of overwhelming?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what a small group of, or a small team can accomplish with one goal in mind.
That's a pretty good lesson. You know, the neat thing about this is it is ultimately a corporate publicity campaign. To have a good deed count, you have to post a video of it on social media and tag certain things, including the sponsor, Chevrolet Canada. But at least it's encouraging kind of positive behavior. What do you hope the kids on your team learn from this?
Well, I hope they learn not only that you can accomplish big things in a team environment, but even just the small gestures in the community go a long way. You never know what somebody's dealing with on any given day, and those gestures can go a long way to people.
That's true, a little bit of kindness, right?
Yeah, I also want the boys to have a big pride in our community. I grew up in Stonewall, and I have a lot of pride in this community, and I want them to have that same pride and commitment to giving back to the community as they grow older.
So if your team actually won, which charity would you choose to receive that $100,000 grand prize?
There has been some talk about it, and I think we were leaning towards the Interlake Foundation, which is a foundation in our region that gives bursaries and all sorts of good things back to the community. Ours would probably have something to do with hockey, and hopefully it would live on for a long time for these boys to see when they're my age, kind of thing, if they're still living around here.
Yeah, which hopefully they will be, because it'll be such a prosperous, great place, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But you do have Manitoba listening at the moment, Byron. So, you know, now's the time if you wanted to make a pitch, because for the first time in this contest's history, anyone over 13 can post a video of a good deed, tag all the right things, and give credit to your team, to Stonewall, under 11, the Blues.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you would like to see somebody step up and help, give us your pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if we could get a whole bunch of extra submissions from outside of just our team. We've done, I think, about 35 good deeds so far, and hopefully we can get a whole bunch more. Anything from outside of our team is always welcome, so it'd be nice to have support.
Nice to have support, and a good lesson again that the boys aren't alone.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we had a really good event last Friday night at the Stonewall Jets game in town, the MMJHL team in Stonewall. They were nice enough to let us hold a Chuck Puck event, and we had the Stonewall Tribune also do all the pucks up for us for that event, and we ended up raising $500 for Ronald McDonald House. So that was a charity that was near and dear to one of our kids' hearts. He had some ties to it when he was little, so we were able to give back in that way as well. So I just wanted to make sure we said that was a pretty special one for the group. The boys had a good time doing it as well. So,
well done to you and your team. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Byron Scrivens, head coach of the Stonewall Blues under 11 hockey team. A CBC News investigation has revealed 3 men wanted by the FBI for allegedly helping the Iranian regime are living here in Canada. We've got that story for you after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Your stories, your community. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to Steinbach starting February 21st. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
A CBC News investigation has revealed 3 men wanted by the FBI for allegedly helping the Iranian regime are living here in Canada. All 3 are businessmen now working in the world of real estate. All 3 are facing felony charges in the United States. They're accused of helping to disguise hundreds of millions of dollars to slip past U.S. sanctions against Iran. Ashley Burke takes us through the alleged scheme and why 2 years later, these men are still here in Canada.
Halil Hennaret promotes himself as an award-winning real estate broker. Salim Hennaret says he's a top private mortgage lender in Toronto, and a third man, Saeed Abtahi, is listed online as his VP. They're businessmen in Canada, but the U.S. says they're fugitives, facing felony charges for allegedly conspiring to help Iran's regime evade American sanctions.
This is a classic example of where Canada is now a safe haven.
They aren't accused of violating Canadian laws, but the U.S. alleges the men were part of a scheme for more than 15 years, disguising more than $750 million worth of transactions on behalf of Iran's regime, including using a front company to secretly buy 2 oil tankers for Tehran.
Says to me, look, they're directly linked to the Iranian regime. It says to me that they're prepared to go to a great distance to support the regime, and that, in my mind, creates a lot of red flags and should for Canada.
Could you do an interview on their behalf on camera? Lawyers for the men declined our interview requests until the case is resolved, but did give a statement saying, "Our clients are proud Canadians. They have no connection directly or indirectly with the government of Iran. The allegations in this regard are without foundation in reality." A currency exchange business that's now closed at this Toronto plaza was allegedly part of the scheme. CBC News has learned 3 other companies now operating here, not named in the indictment, are also tied to Salim Hennaret, including private lending firms that list Abtahi as an executive.
We need more vigorous law enforcement.
The American allegations add to fears in the Iranian-Canadian community.
The feeling generally is that, regrettably, Canada has just become all too accommodating to people that have either financial or political ties with the regime that's governing Iran at the moment.
The Prime Minister has promised Canada would not act as a safe haven for those benefiting from Iran's regime. The Conservatives say the government needs to back up words with action.
I don't think these individuals should be able to operate here in Canada in violation of U.S. sanctions. And I think that starts by ensuring that we have tools in place to shut down these kinds of operations here in Canada.
Now, neither the U.S. or Canada will say if there has been an extradition request. Those kinds of state-to-state communications would remain confidential unless it goes to court. Extradition requests can take years. Canada's Justice Department tells us there are currently no extradition proceedings tied to these men. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The commissioner of the RCMP is retiring. Brenda Lucki will step down March 17th. Lucki was sworn in as commissioner in 2018, the first woman to lead the RCMP. In a letter issued today, she says she's accomplished a lot of her goal to modernize the service. She says there is increased accountability now. In her statement, she says the RCMP has been addressing systemic racism and working to create a safe and equitable workforce. Lucki has faced criticism during her term. She was accused of political interference during the inquiry into the 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia. She also came in for criticism over her performance during the convoy protest. Alberta's Justice Minister said Lucki did not inform the federal cabinet about all the law enforcement options before the Emergencies Act was invoked last year. Russia said today it had broken through 2 Ukrainian defense lines in the Luhansk region. The news comes as NATO allies said they'd send more support to Ukraine, including heavy weapons and military training. Canada's defense minister discussed the NATO contribution.
There are 3 main categories of aid that we are discussing: air defense missile systems, continued 155mm ammunition, as well as tanks. Now,
Ukraine has asked for fighter jets, but NATO is not offering those for now. NATO's chief says Ukraine has a window of opportunity to tip the balance in this war, and time is of the essence. A man who killed 10 black people last year in Buffalo, New York, was sentenced today to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge told him he would never see the light of day as a free man again. The sentencing hearing for Peyton Gendron heard from relatives of the victims.
Man, you don't know a damn thing about black people. We're human. We like our kids to go to good schools. We love our kids. We never go in no neighborhoods and take people out. Don't do it.
Order was eventually restored in that courtroom. Gendron, who is now 19 years old, apologized for his actions today. Along with murder, Gendron was convicted of domestic terrorism motivated by hate. He said he shot and killed people because they were black. He traveled more than 300 kilometers to carry out a rampage at a grocery store in a black neighborhood. An Indigenous language instructor in Saskatchewan has a creative way of connecting with young students. Teresa Owatch teaches children at Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation. And to help her, she brings along a very special sidekick. Louise Big Eagle explains.
You guys ready to go through the animals?
Yeah.
Who remembers what this is?
Chaba.
Chaba, huh? Chaba. Yes, that's a beaver, right?
Teresa Owatch is a language teacher at Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation. But she doesn't teach alone. This is Kushi, which means grandmother in Nakota.
I wouldn't stand up and yell at the children, sit down now, but Kushi, she'll have no problem. She'll yell at them and they'll all come running. We'll point out that, we need to listen to the elder in the class because she is the oldest. And she helps me with the respect. She helps me calm the children down. She's a great asset to help teach. Like, the kids just love her.
While Owatch uses some English, Kushi only speaks Nakota when they teach grade 1 students 3 times a week.
She makes us laugh.
They teach here at the Nakota Oyate Education Center, 100 kilometers east of Regina. Carry the Kettle is one of just 4 Nakota communities in Saskatchewan, and the traditional language is in jeopardy. It's considered critically endangered by the United Nations. Growing up, Owatch was sent off reserve to a school where she says she was ridiculed and made to feel ashamed. Do you think having Kushi with you kind of gives you more confidence too in teaching the language?
Oh, definitely. I certainly lack, a lot of self-confidence, as lots of First Nations people my age do.
She forgot her language for many years, but her sister Frida helped her rediscover Nakota before Frida died. Now, Kushi wears clothing made from Frida's dresses.
I sew them into outfits that will fit her, and to me, maybe kind of foolish, but I think it gives the essence of my sister to Kushi, so that she's always with me.
And with that inspiration, Owatch is giving these children the education she's never had.
She said, "Have a good day, and I will see you all again."
With Kushi's help, she hopes to inspire the next generation of Nakota speakers. Louise Beagle, CBC News, Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation.
Still ahead tonight, an Indigenous curling league right here in Winnipeg has become a family affair. We hit the ice coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. If you've ever curled, you know this to be true. The sport is a family affair. So often, mom and dad curl, then the kids get interested and they curl, and so on and so on. Well, this is a story about generational joy and loving the game. In the 3 decades since the Indigenous League began at the Thistle Curling Club in Winnipeg, those weekly games have become a tradition across generations. CBC's Kevin Nipatebo dropped by for the regular Monday night draw.
It's nice to sit at home in front of the TV and watch curling, but it's better to come and throw rocks and stay in shape that way. We started our Aboriginal Curling League, I think it was in 1992. And I used to curl in Manicotagan when I lived there. And when I came to the city, I seen that there were some curlers. I thought, well, you know what, we should try and maybe get an Aboriginal League started. Well, she was on the broom.
When you're a kid and growing up, it's like, oh, you know, I gotta go and curl with my dad, and you know, you have other interests and other things that you'd want to do. But certainly, we always knew that this was near and dear to his heart. It's a way, certainly for me, to spend time with my dad, and you know, in the last couple years since we've lost my mom, it just, those types of opportunities and time to spend together is that much more meaningful.
Okay, Gash, here we go.
First started when I saw my cookum curl, like when I was younger, and then I always wanted to like curl in this Bondsfield because always brought me like joy, like watching her, and it just made me want to curl. She'll watch us on the FaceTime, and she's always so excited to watch us curl.
It's nice just to come out and see these young people, you know, and come and compete against them, you know, even at my age. I just really like curling, and I like watching it, and I like being part of it. It brings a smile to my face and happiness to my heart. After 45 years, I think it is for me, curling. Yeah, I wouldn't have given that up for anything.
As promised, Fiona Odlum joins us once again with viewer photos.
Yes, okay. I have a photo and a very cool video. So I actually was supposed to show this photo yesterday, but with the storm, I had to hold it over. Let's take a look at it now. So this one is basically how I got home last night, was following those little bird tracks. Thank you, Matthew. He said that was near the Louise Bridge here in Winnipeg. And, oh, where'd my video go? Oh, shoot, I'll have to show it to you later. It was really wicked. Okay, minus 15 right now at the Forks. Definitely cooler than what we've been seeing over the last little bit. Minus 16 in St. Laurent and the same in Selkirk. We have a really nice light wind through southern and central Manitoba. Temperatures dropping. Minus 22 in Barons River. Minus 31 right now in Churchill, where you are sitting with an extreme cold warning. This warning extended throughout the day. Yesterday it was just this little corner. Now it is extended and reached over into northern Ontario as well, northwestern Ontario in the tip there. It's all because of this cold air that's been moving in from the Kiklevik area. So around Rankin Inlet, Whale Cove has been coming through, making everything nice and clear, but cold. We have a huge storm on the way. Here it is. It's going to be moving in and across, bringing us significant snow and warm air rising. So we're going to be seeing a huge temperature swing as we move into Friday. In the north, these are the numbers we're looking at. So late tomorrow afternoon, this storm passes through. We're looking for about 11 centimeters in towards Norway House. To the south, we see some trace snow throughout the day Thursday. Friday into Saturday, we could see about 1 centimeter of snow. The wind, of course, has been the huge issue for us, and we're going to continue to see that as nice and easy until Friday, when it gets incredibly windy for us again. tonight, we're going to see temperatures really different than yesterday. Wind chill values into those 30s into northwestern Ontario. In Winnipeg, minus 36 is our wind chill overnight tonight. That'll be the same as we look towards Dauphin and Swan River as well. Base temperature minus 23, Portage La Prairie minus 25. In the north, we're going to see wind chill values of minus 48 in Churchill to Dooley Lake, also in Brochet, and it's going to be very cold for a couple more days for you, unfortunately. In towards that southwest corner, lots of sunshine coming your way, starting your day off with that wind chill into the low minus 30s. Lots of sunshine for Steinbach tomorrow as well. We are going to see a little bit of cloud cover as we look towards that northwestern Ontario zone, and your wind chill when you wake up, minus 32, Janet.
Thanks very much, Fiona.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, helping make hockey a sport for everyone. We talked to one of the researchers behind the Winnipeg-based Anti-Racism in Sport campaign. There's a free movie screening tomorrow night at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. Why this researcher says everyone involved in hockey should hear the stories Black players share in the film Black Ice. Our conversation after the break. There's a free screening of the film Black Ice tomorrow evening at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. The film examines racism in hockey and tells the stories of current and former players who are Black. The event is being hosted by the Canadian Race Relations Foundation and Immigration Partnership Winnipeg, which runs the Anti-Racism in Sport campaign. I spoke with a member of that campaign this afternoon. Craig Brown, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, sir, very much for having me.
You're a member of the panel that will be speaking to people after tomorrow night's screening. What kinds of questions are you expecting? What do you hope comes out of that discussion?
I think what we hope would come out of this discussion, it's really just, even the point of the film, just a questioning of the background with hockey, the role that racialized persons have played in the sport of hockey, specifically Black persons, but even just that notion of let's look at how we can representation within hockey and tell that unified story going forward.
What was the most surprising thing that came out of the research that you and other team members did looking at racism in sport in Winnipeg?
There are quite a few surprising things that came out, but I'll target the fact that the racism that persons explained that they experienced within sport in Winnipeg, it had so many levels to it. It was institutionalized and systemic. You had persons who had experienced so much overt racism that it's left them with a lot of emotional and psychological trauma. But you had so many situations where nothing was being done, and that sport organizations were failing in their role as it relates to actually doing something about it. And also with that, just how prevalent it was. And it felt many persons, racism didn't exist when you would speak to people in general, but when we spoke to our participants, we recognized based on their responses, if it didn't happen to them, they'd witnessed it in some way, shape, or form, and it was more rampant than we expected it to be.
How hopeful are you that conversations like the one you'll be having tomorrow night and the conversation we're having now are moving the needle on that, changing things?
Oh, when it's something like racism or something that's been entrenched for a while, I think moving the needle is relative in the sense that sometimes we think that move has to be a big jump, but for us having a discussion like tomorrow, it's a small step or a small moving of the needle in the right direction, in the sense that at one point, as I mentioned, these discussions wouldn't take place in such an open forum. But now we have the opportunity to have more of these discussions. So we believe that even just having the platform to have these discussions will actually play its part, because that's one of the main things that our participants shared. They really want more awareness. They would love more education for those within sport and within the regular society about what's happening and about the voices of those who are racialized within sport in Canada.
If there's someone listening who's been involved in sport and perhaps, doesn't feel that this is an issue because perhaps in their skin it just hasn't been a problem, what would you say to them?
Oh, I would say to them, first and foremost, I respect your opinion and I respect your experience. I'm not here to tell you that your experience isn't valid. I would just encourage you to speak to other persons who are racialized within your sport or within other sports, or to even just step back a little bit and take a different look at your sports space. Because for many of our participants, there were some who didn't identify as racialized, who said that they were in the same shoes. They didn't see any racism. They didn't think of anything happening in their sports spaces. But when they spoke to some of their friends and when they decided to step back, they started to look with more objective eyes, and they recognized that the sports spaces that they thought were safe were the furthest thing from safe for those who were racialized.
Craig Brown, thank you for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Your 7-day forecast and daily lift still to come. Stay with us.
Your stories, your community. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to Steinbach starting February 21st. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
The cold air stays with us again tomorrow. Daytime high of -15, a light wind, a little bit breezier for our Friday, but incredibly warm. It stays warm over the weekend. A chance of some snow on Sunday for Festival, and then sunshine and cooler for next week. So get ready to stay cold for a little while longer. And this was super cool. This video was sent to us. This was a doorbell cam last night catching the aurora up in South Indian Lake. RJ sent this in. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's beautiful. It's enough reason to get a camera right there. You know, getting around in the cold and snow of our winters can be a really tough thing, especially for people who have mobility issues.
Yeah, but a man in Saskatoon was inspired to make a clever modification to his walker. Here's your daily lift.
And I'm the creator of my ski-daddle, which gives me the freedom of mobility in the winter.
This is Duncan Myers. He got the inspiration for his ski-daddler. See, look at that, from the sliding frames used to help kids learn to skate. He took a pair of skis and replaced the wheels on his walker. He wears ice cleats, just so you know, for added control in the ice and snow. I think that's an absolutely brilliant idea.
Amazing.
Patent it. Patent it now, Duncan Myers.
Dragon's Den.
Thanks for being with us.